In today's video, we're going to finish the TT02 Buggy from Tamiya, the purple green edition. It looks absolutely spectacular, so stick around, check out the video, and let me know what you think. Welcome back to the channel. Today we finished the TT02 Buggy project before we start our hopped up version and we compare the two. But obviously today's video we're going to focus on the Plasma Edge Purple Green Edition. It's a beautiful looking kit. The colour is absolutely spectacular. The decals really complement the colour as well. I know there's a few people out there that haven't put a lot of the decals on this kit because they didn't want to sort of hide the really nice iridescent paint job. I haven't put all the decals on, but I really think that the decals that I've put on really complement the colour. It looks quite racy out of the box as well. So yeah, today's video we're going to put the electrics in, obviously finish the body. So we'll show you how we did that, and I'll flick over to some footage of that, explain what we've put into the car, and then we're going to take it out for a quick burn outside. Now, I did want to take it down to a local park, but we've had a lot of rain recently and it's basically underwater still. So we'll just take it outside and do a first little run just to get the feel for the car and sort of see how it is out of the box. So in last week's video, we installed the servo and the motor. So we kept it very minimal. Again, this is a beginner's build. I didn't want to put anything too high spec that was going to be out of price range for a beginner or out of spec for really what the car offers. So as you can see there, we've put the speed controller on top of the servo, and obviously I've used that little waterproof receiver box there. Now, I've never used one of those in the past, so I figured I'd use it to see how it goes, and it's actually worked out quite nicely because I've been able to hide some of the speed controller and the servo wires inside the box, so there's a lot less wires hanging outside. Obviously I could have gone ahead and shortened a lot of this and direct soldered to the motor, but then again the build is not about that. It's about getting out there with a nice entry-level buggy and having fun. So one other thing you've probably noticed that I haven't used is the motor cover. Now, there is a plastic motor cover that goes over that. In the past, in some of my TT02 kits that I have had and since sold, I found that the motor gets quite hot underneath there. So I'm going to try it without this time. And I've just double-sided taped the switch down here to the side in the position that it would normally sit on that motor cover. So when we talk electronics, I've just put something very basic into this kit here. The FlySky GT2E. It's a very entry-level controller, but it still does give you a lot of adjustability in the back section here. You can change your throttle, the steering trim, throttle trim, and the steering rate. So it's a nice entry-level remote, and the receivers are quite small as well. And I'm not quite sure if you can bind multiples to that controller, but what I usually run is the GT3C, and you can actually program 10 cars into this remote, and obviously they use a different model receiver, but they're very cheap, around about $14 each. So I'd recommend going with something like that. That'll set you back around about that $69, whereas I think these are somewhere around about $40 with the receiver. So enough about the chassis. If you do want to check out some more about the chassis and the build, you can click the link above, and that was my previous video, part 2, the chassis build. So today, the next thing we've got to talk about is the body. Now, I've already touched on how the colour and the colour scheme, whatnot. I think the decals on this really suit it, and I'm really happy with how they've turned out. And for a beginner, there's actually not a lot of decals on here. So you've got sort of your Tamiya decal, you've got sort of the racing flag decal, and then you've got this other one that goes along the top, and then this one that goes down the center. So you're really only looking about sort of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and if you include the wing, about 8 decals that go on the car. So it's not a very tricky one compared to some other kits like the Porsche 45th anniversary. I think had about 86 decals on it. So it's very much designed for the beginner, and they're easy to cut out and put on. Now, some of the techniques that I use when applying the decals is, I'll show some footage of what I mean, is just cut the corner off, apply a small section of the decal, lay it back, and that way you can sort of get an idea of where the decal is going to land, and slowly push the decal on and while pulling the backing back, and you should get a nice smooth finish. So with the decals on, and again keeping it quite minimal, we can see that they really go together nicely with the car, and the whole car comes together quite nicely. So just out of interest, I did have a set of the more orange style rims that I could have put on the car, but again I had to hold back and keep it quite basic. But I'll flick to a photo of that now, where you can see that it probably does pick up that yellowy orange color a little bit better, and that could be something for the viewers out there to consider with this kit. So now that we have the body and the wing completed, all of our decals that we want to put on there, we now got to mount the body on the chassis. Now you would notice that on the body here we only have the front and rear body post holes, and normally on buggies that's not uncommon, but particularly on this one there is a little bit of wobble with the body. So what I did, I had these just in my toolkit pretty much. Some of these foam round, they actually are body post holders. I don't know if that's coming across on the camera there, but they offer a little bit more of a solid fixing point rather than just on the normal sort of metal pins that you put in to set the body height. So when that goes on the car, we'll put the body on here now. And when you do put the body posts in, it does make it a little bit more rigid. As you can see, there's not as much movement on there as without those little foam spaces. So I can highly recommend that to anyone who basically just wants a little bit less movement on the body. As you can see, it doesn't chatter around as much against the side of the chassis. So that's it for the body and the electronics. There's one more thing that we have to do now. We have to take it outside and see how it runs. I'm not expecting huge things from this kit, as it is only a beginner, and in that build video it did run quite a small pinion gear, so there is some room there to make a few changes if you do have a range of pinion gears that will fit the car. So let's roll over to some of the footage just outside. Sit back, hope you enjoy this one, and I'll come back and wrap the video up. Well, we've taken it for a little test drive there. I'm absolutely really shocked by this buggy, to be completely honest. It drives really nicely. Yes, there's a few issues that I could fix up on it, but I think out of the box it is very nice. Now, one of the things that really ticks all the boxes for me is the body, the color and the decals really go together nicely, and it's a beautiful looking buggy when you're driving it as well. Definitely puts a smile on your face. Now, yes, it's not going to be a speedster out of the box. I would probably say it goes around 25 kilometers an hour. You know, maybe if you had a lipo in it, but I do think for the beginners, it's a perfect car out there to learn on, to get used to how driving, and it's a perfect platform to say, change some gearing, maybe put a sport tuned or a slightly hotter motor in there as well. But all in all, I think it's absolutely fantastic, and it's one of those kits that I think the more power you throw at it, I think that's when you start to reach the limitations of the basic chassis itself. Now, I think that's it for this one here. I really, yeah, like I said, blown away with it. Looks fantastic. And up next on the TT02 series, at some stage on the channel, we'll be building the Neo Scorcher here. I've got lots and lots of upgrades, and I'm pretty much going to build a TT02B MS edition. I've got a body set that's being custom painted, so that's going to look really nice. And I think after sort of building this one and running this one, I've actually just ordered a few little upgrades that I think will change this one. They're not Tamiya upgrades, so it'll be interesting to compare some of the cheaper entry-level upgrades that you can get to solve a few problems on this versus a fully hopped-out Tamiya kit. So that's it for today. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Make sure you hit like and subscribe. Really helps support the channel. You can catch all my other videos as well. So until the next video, thank you very much.